What's up, y'all? Happy Money Monday. Today we're gonna be kind of continuing the same vein from last Thursday, where I was talking about the housing shortage and things to do with housing. I decided today is Money Monday, and also about solutions versus problem finding mindset. I figured I should use this opportunity to go over some solutions for housing, or what I went through on my own personal journey with housing. So we have a house hacking episode. This is based off my experience and the things I have learned so far. All of this is meant to be like a general sort of, not even guide. This is for educational purposes only, and this is from my experience and my perspective, what I have learned. And so hopefully the things that I have learned will be able to help other people that are in similar situations where this information will be beneficial. All right, so starting off, I'm originally from Virginia, where the rent for example, when I first moved out after college, I lived in a 3 bedroom house with two other girls, and it was like $400 a month for each of us. This is Virginia. So my experiences with rent in Virginia were all around that. Everywhere you went, you could rent a room in somebody's house for around like 400, maybe $500. But yeah, everyone. I ended up moving to a new place pretty much every year for one reason or another, and it was still always, it was never difficult to find something in that range. Um, Shoot, even when I got an apartment with another roommate, we still were paying around that much. So it'd be like, maybe the apartment was like 1,200, and so we were each paying, maybe, actually no, the apartment was probably like 1,000, and we were paying 500 each or something like that. So Virginia. So these are my standards in Virginia. I was never able to afford my own place in Virginia. I always just rented a room because I was still trying to build up my career. I was like serving. I was training at my university. Still after I graduated as well. And I was working at the YMCA, and I was teaching at a community center. All this like stuff all over the place, but it's still, I couldn't afford to, like, I actually tried looking into getting a house in Virginia, and they were super impressed by my credit, but they were like, but you don't make enough money. So I couldn't afford a house. Even in Virginia, I still didn't make enough money, so I just kept renting rooms. So when I got here to LA, after having years and years of paying like $400, $500 in rent, in my mind, yes, I know LA is more expensive, and I kind of like was mentally prepared for that. But in my mind, I was like, okay, well, I'll just find a room for maybe like $500 or $600. And so that was my expectation. And a lot of people would, I know in hindsight, thankfully I never talked to any of those people or heard from any of those people when I got out here. But in hindsight, if I tell somebody like, oh, I'm looking for a room for like $500 or $600 in LA, so I'm like literally translating Virginia prices um, slightly up for LA, but not anything crazy higher. So with that mindset, I found an apartment. I found a room, and it was the master bedroom too. I found two lovely guys that were renting out their. They had a 1 bedroom apartment. They were living in the living room, and they were renting out the bedroom for $600. So that was my first place after the first place I moved here, the person that moved me out, I was living with them for free because I wouldn't have came out here without some kind of safety. But I know that people do just up and move to LA and don't really have exactly a plan. I didn't have like a hard plan because that plan failed miserably and didn't work out with that person. And I still didn't have, by the time I needed to leave the person that moved me out, I was only here for 3 months, and I still hadn't gotten hired yet. So I didn't have a job. I had a little bit of money still from my savings. I sold my car in Virginia right before I came over here and so I was just like using my bike and the metro to get around. But yeah, I was still like going on interviews and waiting to get callbacks from the place that I was pretty sure was going to hire me. It was the YMCA, but they were moving very, very slow. So when I had to move out and pay for rent, I was like, I don't have a job yet or money to pay for rent. But the first thing that helped, like I said, that mindset of what I wanted to pay. I wanted to pay like $500 or $600. So I looked and I found something literally maybe a block or two away from where I was at, still in Koreatown. I moved into the apartment with the boys, with the guys, and I had the master bedroom. So it was great. It was furnished. I didn't have like my own stuff, so I looked specifically for a furnished room so I could like use their, all their bed and their furniture and just move my little bit of stuff in. And it was great. And then I ended up finally getting hired at that YMCA. But because I did not have my first check, I took out a loan to be able to pay my first rent, my first month's rent. I just used my bank account at the time. I still had Wells Fargo, and you could do a personal loan. So I did that to pay for like first month and deposit, and just like voluntarily went into some debt so that I could at least, because I was like, well, now I'm going to be working so I can use that money. Actually, that was when I moved here, I still had my regular debt as well. So I was like fully in debt during that time period anyways. So I just added more debt so that I could live in the apartment. But that's also when the military got me, because when you're in that in-between time and you don't really have any money, I didn't have any money. They bribed me. They were like, we'll give you a bonus if you join us. And they also blackmailed me, and they were like, we're not going to take you to... I had just gotten hired finally. I was only talking to the military because I had applied at so many places and I wasn't getting anything back from them that I started to get kind of desperate. Do not recommend joining the military. If you are desperate, it's better than nothing. But you are selling your soul to the devil. All right, they will have you sign a contract that says your life is ours for the next however many years. So I want to be perfectly clear about that. I am not advocating for or recommending joining the military. But if they offer you enough money and you feel like it's worth it, I mean, that's what I did. And that was also one of the ways I was able to pay off all that debt, because I did eventually, between the blackmail where they wouldn't take me to work and they knew I didn't have a car, and they were taking me to the recruiting center because they were so kind, and then they're like, oh, well, if you're not signing up with us, we're not going to be kind anymore. So I was like, okay, fine, let me sign it. I need the money anyways, and I need to get to work, so I'm not going to overthink this. And so I started work at the Y, and then I went away for 7 months to go do my basic training. And so that kind of sucked because I had just gotten hired at the Y, and then I told them like, hey, so I also joined the military and I have to leave for 7 months. So that was great. They were fortunately understanding about it, and it was cool. And I got all the extra money and all the extra heartache and headache, and I paid off all my debt. And there was maybe like one moment where I was not homeless. I still had the apartment where I was like getting kicked out of before I found the two boys. But it was such an unbearable condition because that person was just really bitter and like hateful that I didn't feel comfortable sleeping in the apartment like while I was like searching for the new apartment. So I actually did stay in the train station, and I slept on the train in the metro. Fun fact. It was actually it was not that bad. I mean, maybe I got lucky, but it was not that terrible. And then I would kind of like hop from like I had made a couple of friends by that point that would let me stay over. So I kind of like hopped around, like just staying at whoever's house would like let me stay over. One of them I didn't realize was like expectations involved, so I only got to stay with them like once. But I did like what I could to stay somewhere that was not the toxic, terrible place. So with that, I want to say like I do recognize there's a lot of stages to homelessness, and I considered genuinely just getting a car and staying, because I was like, the fact that I could stay on the train and it was more comfortable than that living situation, I was like, well shoot, I might as well just get a car, and like if I don't find an apartment, I'll just stay in the car. But I have a cat, so my baby, he's over there laying on the floor right now. The only thing that kept me, and I've had this thought like in Virginia before too, I was like, I would save so much money and be able to get whatever I want if I just lived in my car. And I strongly considered it, but I was like, having my cat living in a car with me would not work. Like, I don't know, with the bathroom, like I would have to set up some kind of litter bathroom situation, and that's too closed of a space, and he needs to be able to like move around freely and stuff. And so I was like, literally the only thing that saved me from deciding to just go be a mobile home type situation. By mobile home, I mean a car. Was the fact that I had a cat. So fully recognizing, someone brought it to my attention that there are people that are, they're working and having like a full job and like paying for things and stuff that do not have a house or like an apartment or a solid place to live. They're like, not all. I had to be reminded that not all homeless people are the ones that you kind of see that it's like really sad, like they're just like at the very very end of homelessness, or being unhoused. They're like, the ones that they look like they've been on the streets for a good minute and not intentionally. Because I also have noticed there's some places they're like they got some really nice setups and they're cooking and cleaning and taking care of themselves well still. So they're just like an in between sort of period. So in that situation, I will say like literally what saved me was having a cat. From not saved me because I'm like, it wouldn't have been, I don't think it would have been like any more detrimental if I had done that situation instead of like finding the apartment. But having the mindset that I could find something that cheap, that was really helpful to me, because I would definitely, as much as I know I would have been fine living in a car for like a short period of time while I waited for it to like build up enough paychecks. Also, it's hard to have an address like that. That's the other issue. Like, how do you get mail? But as much as I knew that I would be okay, it was so much better for me to actually be able to have a place to come home to and an address to go to for a myriad of reasons. The reasons why we normally try to get a house or an apartment. The stability and the space is nice. But yeah, because I had that, it was because I had that standard, and I remember seeing a video or listening to someone speak before that they were like, whatever situation you're in, and this is radical accountability, that there's nuance to it, but I mean, more or less I agreed with it, but whatever you find yourself in, like humans will naturally gravitate towards their bare minimum standard that they have for themselves. You will naturally, like, if you find it unconscionable to not have a car, like that was a big thing over here in LA. People were like, oh, it's such a car city, you can't not have a car here. And people were like, how can you not have a car? And so they all had cars because they were like, you can't not have a car in LA. I didn't have a car in LA my first 3 years, and I got freaking used to it. And the only reason I bought a car was because I had a girlfriend at the time that was like, when she would come to visit, it was uncomfortable for her to have to, like, it was like kind of a pain in the butt to teach her to like ride the bus in the metro with me. And I was like, okay, I'll just get a car. But it was because I had gotten so used to not having a car for 3 years that by that time I had enough money to buy one whenever I wanted to. I just didn't feel the need to. And so when I did, I was just like, okay. and I just bought it. I was able to just buy it outright. So that's like a standard that people have for themselves. And then the same thing with housing. Because I made the standard for myself that, okay, I need to find an apartment and this is how much I can pay. I found an apartment that cost how much I could pay. And I did it when I left there. I found another one. It wasn't like in exactly the same area the next time. But I found another one also for $600, like another year and a half later. Um, and if I really needed to find another one, I probably could. Honestly, well, no, I don't need to now. But then the apartment that I got with my friend at the time, after that one, we decided to go get a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment together, and that was like 1,800 at that time. So I still wanted to pay 600 a month. So we rented out our living room. We like advertised. It was a nice big open living room. It had its own closet. I was like, somebody would definitely live here and take this. The other people who are like me that are looking for rent of $600. I was like, I know I'm not the only one. So it would have been 900 split between the two of us. We got a third person, and so then that made it 600 each. Yeah, I'm mathing right? Yeah. So that was like the first 5 years of living here. I was still paying maybe like probably more like 4 years, somewhere around there. I was paying, so each place I moved to, I still made a way for it to cost me $600 per month that entire time. And I was making more money by the time we got the 2-bedroom apartment. I was making like good money by that point, like, or reasonable money. I had been at the YMCA and built up also at my new gym as well. So that was where I was able to really start. That was like baby house hacking, like kind of like using your place of residence for also bringing in money. So it's not, people think getting a house or renting is automatically you're paying a certain amount, but there are ways where you can monetize your place of living. There's so many different ways you can monetize, whether you Airbnb, just like you have to look into all these things and do your due diligence and make sure that it's something you can do where you're at, or like kind of figure it out. But you'd be surprised at how flexible you can be when you are not paying the full cost of your living arrangement. And not, I just, at this point, I don't even expect to ever pay the full price of anywhere I live. When I get my house, I plan on house hacking my house. You can rent out your rooms. Of course, we know about Airbnb, or you can just actually have like renters on a lease, or if you have like a separate guest house. There's people that intentionally get duplexes, quadplexes, and have full standard renters renting out every unit except for one, and you live in the one unit for free. That is house hacking. Finding a way to live wherever you live for either the price that you can afford or for free. So my goal, honestly, is to get even better from the $600 that I had been doing. I'm not doing that anymore now. I just went ahead and I was like, emotional distress. I need to get in my own apartment. And I want to have a living room. I'm in my living room right now. It's really nice having a living room that someone's not living in. So I was like, I'm going to take the higher rent to have my living room for a change. But yeah, I could have house hacked this one too, to that. I mean, I do rent out my guest bedroom. I got another 2-bath, and I still don't pay the full rent and save a lot of money that way. But yeah, you can do that with houses. The other issue with houses, like I said, I was able to qualify based on credit, but I didn't make enough money. So if you don't make enough money, you have to start getting creative, because it's kind of interesting, the thing about not making enough money, because you're not planning to pay it anyway. So you technically don't need to make enough money for these things. You just have to you have to find a way to get around that in the meantime. And so that's going to be education and looking into things. And that's where you get into creative stuff. So you either have to go in with already have either somewhere that already has a renter or renters. Like, say if you do the multifamily thing where you get either 2 or 3 or 4 units together. So I would start with something small. Well, this is me personally. I had the idea for a long time that I wanted to get like a little fourplex, and I get to pick whichever one I wanted to live in and then rent out the other 3. Well, they have those already existing. So you could also, in theory, and I haven't looked deep into this, but you could also find one that's already existing where the owner is tired of, is either leaving or whatever various reasons, like the property owner doesn't want to keep it, but they still have the other tenants in place. And there's situations where, shoot, you can even get loans based on the rents, and they don't look into your credit. They look into, are there stable renters in place paying the rent, and this property is cash flowing, aka making enough money, and paying all the mortgage and covering everything. There's so many, the world is so wide open. I swear, every year my mind is blown by something else I find out. So yes, technically, there's people that have bought properties, houses, without paying anything or having their credit checked or having any of their shit looked into stuff. And now they make money off of this place. Yeah, you got to be a landlord and do maintenance and stuff like that. But I'm that's freaking worth it. I mean, honestly, shoot. I'm still, honestly, now I'm considering it again. I really want to get my own just really nice house. That's why I shifted. Because the other thing you can do, so if you don't want to do multifamily route, you can do things so for example, I want really nice, pretty LA house with a pool and a hot tub and 5 bedrooms and all the, all the trimmings. I just want something cute and fancy that I can come home to and just be hell yeah, I live here. Other people like houses like that too. In LA, that's a party house. That's so we know about Airbnb. There's something called Swimly. So when I'm not using my pool, I can hourly rent out my pool for a rate. Me and my friends just did our 4th of July party like that. We rented out somebody's pool. I have no idea how much she paid for that. But because it's hourly, it's automatically going to make you more money than having a overnight guest. Anything that's hourly, you can charge more, which is awesome. I'm assuming, so look into that. Don't quote me on anything. Always do your own homework. But yeah, this is a long one. Sorry, y'all. I have a lot to say about this topic. This is a lot of background. So yeah, there's Swimly. So because I know I want a house with a pool and a hot tub, and I just wanted to be super cute with a little fire pit, and a patio, a bar, and it would be I love a party and I love hosting, so I want a space where I can host and have parties, and I'm I do not have to be the only person hosting and having parties out of this gorgeous space. So I also plan on doing party rentals. One of the other things that I got to experience, the same friend also rented for her birthday a nice house in LA that had the pool and the whole little outdoor area that was excellent for hosting, and the little back house and whatever the heck going on over there, and all the trimmings and toppings. And I know that costs hella money to rent out that whole backyard area. We didn't even use the pool there. But it was just beautiful. It was just a beautiful space. And I was dude, they're paying their whole mortgage off this party. I guarantee it. I didn't get the chance to ask, but I was I bet this one party pays for their entire mortgage or rent or whatever for the month. And I was I'm going to do that. So, house hacking. That is what I've learned so far. Between the houses, between the apartments, whatever standard you have set is what you will find. You can because you will settle in what you think you can have. That is the moral for today. Like, let that sink in. What you believe you can have, what you think you can have, is true. Just like we were talking about the scarcity abundance, it's going to be true either way because you can find evidence supporting all the problems are real. Like, they exist, and you can find the evidence supporting them. But why would you look for that? And then the same thing for me with the houses. I know full well how expensive it is to live out here, and I still paid what I wanted to. Literally, I paid $600 to live in LA a month for years. And this was not that long ago, for years. So I almost hate to say, like, if I can do it, anybody can do it, because that's so played out. But I wouldn't say that it's an if I can do it, anybody can do it thing. I would say it literally is, it's like what you expect. What you expect, you will receive. And if you don't expect anything at all, you're just kind of leaving yourself wide open for whatever happens. So I would say, take the control, be empowered. This is not like a shame type thing, but I feel like when I learned this lesson myself, I was like, oh snap, I'm creating these situations, like whether it's bad or good. I was like, I created it. I created that ability to pay what I wanted because that was what I expected. And I was just like, it didn't cross my mind that I wouldn't be able to find that in LA. Like, it literally didn't even cross my mind. I was like, I can find a room for like $500 or $600. Like, why would I not? Shoot, there's probably some cheaper than that. They're probably terrible though, so watch out for that. But again, that's an expectation. So I shouldn't even say that. Take that away. That was another expectation. But yeah, and then because now every year I got into an even better and a better and a better situation because I expected to, and I planned for it, and I look for it, and I look for the ways to do what I want to do. Like that house that I just described, it's probably a few $1,000,000. I'm not really concerned about that because I know I'm not going to be paying that. I'm not going to be like my party guests, my swimmer guests, my whoever pays me for the use of the property is going to be paying all of that. So it's like, why would I be concerned about the several $1,000,000 when I'm like, that ain't got nothing to do with me. So yes, think about what your standards are for yourself, what you expect out of life, what you want out of life. And this is a process. This is definitely a process over time. You have to, like, your brain has to get to the place where it makes sense for you and you truly believe and expect what you feel you deserve. So, all right, this is like my longest one, y'all. So I got on a little pedestal about housing. I hope this was helpful. Please leave a comment, questions, concerns, anything that I left out. I feel like I probably covered everything. It's been like 28 minutes. All right, y'all. Get that money, get that wealth.